Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. You see right there on the left, Vice President Kamala Harris taking to the mic. Over on the right, Donald Trump getting ready to take to the mic. Both of them in North Carolina. Let's listen in to what's happening over there on the left side of your screen. The Vice President of the United States rallying in Raleigh and about to make a closing argument to voters in that key state.
Raleigh, are we ready to do this? Are we ready to vote? Are we ready to win? Oh, it's good to be back in North Carolina. Thank you all, and all the incredible leaders who are here. Thank you all, everyone, for taking time out of your busy lives to be here this afternoon. I thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank my dear friend, Governor Cooper, Roy Cooper, Attorney General Josh Stein, who will be your next governor, Representatives Nickel, Ross, Fushi, and Mayor Baldwin. I thank you all and all the leaders who are here. So Raleigh, early voting, as Jennifer said, has started. Here in Wake County, you can vote early now through Saturday, November 2nd. And we need you to vote early, North Carolina. Because we have just 6 days left in one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have work to do. But we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work is joyful work. And make no mistake, we will win. Because when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. And we know we have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump, who has been trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other. We know that is who he is, but North Carolina, that is not who we are. And it is time for a new chapter where we stop with the pointing fingers at each other and instead let us lock arms with one another, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready with you. I am ready to offer that leadership as the next president of the United States of America. And North Carolina, you know, I've been here many, many times over the years, and you know this. I am not afraid of tough fights. For decades, as a prosecutor and as the top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks that ripped off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, against cartels that trafficked in guns and drugs and human beings. And if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf as president, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way. And look, we know who Donald Trump is. This is not someone who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. In less than 90 days, either he or I will be in the Oval Office. Big differences between he and I, but I would say a major contrast is this. If he is elected on day one, Donald Trump will walk into that office with an enemies list. When I am elected, I will walk in with a to-do list full of priorities about what I will get done for you, the American people. And at the top of my list is bringing down your cost of living. That will be my focus every single day as president. I will give a middle-class tax cut to over 100 million Americans. Enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. And fight to make sure that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live. And if you are caring for an elderly parent, my plan will cover the cost of home care under Medicare so that seniors can get the help and care they need to stay in their own homes. And my plan will lower the cost of child care, cut taxes for small businesses, and lower health care costs, because I believe health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. On the other hand, Donald Trump's answer to the financial pressures you face is the same as last time. Another $1 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires and big corporations. And this time, he will pay for it with a 20% Trump national sales tax on everyday basic necessities, which will cost the average American family nearly $4,000 more a year. On top of that, you will pay even more if Donald Trump finally gets his way and ends the Affordable Care Act, which will throw, if he were to win, which would throw millions of Americans off their health insurance and take us back to when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. You remember what that was like? Well, we are not going back. We are not going back. Because ours is a fight for the future. And it is a fight for freedom. Like the fundamental freedom of a woman to be able to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. And we all remember how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. They did. And now in America, 1 in 3 women lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban, including in North Carolina and every state in the South except Virginia. Think about that. Many with no exceptions, even for rape and incest, which is immoral. And Donald Trump, understand, he's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide. He would restrict access to birth control, put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025. Just Google it. Read the plans yourself and let us agree. One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree, the government should not be making that decision for you.
All right, so we are hearing Vice President Kamala Harris making her closing arguments at a rally in Raleigh. On the left side of your screen, you're hearing a lot of excitement from the right side of your screen. Representative Byron Donald getting the vote out also in North Carolina, but for the Republicans. Donald Trump about to step to that mic. We're watching for that. But while we wait for the former president to step to that mic and make his case to people in North Carolina, let's go live now to CBS News political director Fin Gómez. Fin, when I watch Kamala Harris make that closing argument in North Carolina, I am mindful of her time as a prosecutor. She almost, last night in Washington, D.C., and today, sounds very much like an attorney, like a prosecutor making closing arguments to a jury.
You know, Reed, I think that's absolutely right. When I was there at the rally last night and also in hearing this rally, it is a similar tone, and that's that prosecutorial tone. It's Vice President Harris making her closing argument, just like a prosecutor does in front of a jury in a big case, let's say. So right now she's contrasting her points, her key points in her campaign, key issues, but also trying to illustrate the contrast between herself and former President Trump. One, she says, is really, it amounts to one of optimism and positivity versus the dark rhetoric that's emanating from the Trump campaign, and also the two paths, not only on the tenor, but also on policy, on key issues that matter, especially to her base. She referenced abortion rights. That's a big one, a central issue for her campaign. And again, she is barnstorming across the battleground states today, as is Donald Trump. They're both having these dueling rallies in North Carolina, but they're also going to be in Wisconsin today as well, in that key blue wall state. You know, it is just 6 days away, Reed, and it's all systems go here as well for these candidates.
And, you know, she's known for trying to keep things optimistic, but today she might need to keep it optimistic because, of course, her camp is fighting headlines after something that you saw and brought to our attention, and that is President Joe Biden referring in non-favorable terms to Trump supporters. We had a chance to hear from the vice president before she went to North Carolina commenting on Joe Biden's comments. Stay with us. We want to play that response to our viewers and then talk to you about it after.
First of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. You heard my speech last night and continuously throughout my career. I believe that the work that I do is about representing all the people, whether they support me or not. And as President of the United States, I will be a president for all Americans, whether you vote for me or not. That is my responsibility, and that's the kind of work that I've done my entire career, and I take it very seriously.
Fin, this sort of feels like a study in left hook, right hook at the last minute, at the end of the fight. You know, we saw the comment about Puerto Rico at Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. That literally gave fuel to the Democrats to give a left hook, so to speak, to Republicans. Now it looks like Republicans could steal the headline and deliver a right hook using Joe Biden's own words. What do you say?
No, absolutely. I spoke to a source close to the Harris campaign who told me that this was flat out what he said was dumb. The fact that it happened and the fact that it even occurred this gaffe occurred on the day of her major address. Look, the White House has been trying to clean up the president's comments, saying that he was not referring, when he referred to his supporters, meaning Trump supporters, as garbage. He wasn't referring to them specifically, but to the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric that was coming from that Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday. However, you know, it did interrupt the headlines of this major address that she had last night. It was offer a distraction as well. Whatever the reason, whatever what he said, the damage has been done in the sense that it opened up, this criticism from the right, from Republicans, saying it has echoes of the 2016 Hillary Clinton, basket of deplorables comment. I don't think they're a little bit of apples and oranges, but it's the same sort of, it allows for new headlines. It allows for, discussions about that instead of discussions about, the rhetoric that we heard in New York on Sunday.
Well, and we also saw Donald Trump in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where, by the way, a lot of people with a heart for Puerto Rico live and vote. So we know that Harris is scheduled for a campaign stop in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania later today. What do we expect to hear from her?
Yeah, you know, that's exactly right. You know, he was there yesterday. This is, again, in the aftermath, as you refer to, of those comments, those jokes about, you know, about Puerto Rico and, you know, off-color, inflammatory, racist jokes about not just them, but, you know, black people and Latinos overall. And I think what the Harris campaign has told me is that they do believe that this does offer an ability to a chance for them to contrast again. You know, what they say is their message and positive message to these key voting groups. And while at this, you know, Trump-sanctioned rally, there was this, you know, this racist and hateful rhetoric. They feel that it has legs, that can move the dial in that key battleground state of Pennsylvania. You know, whereas in our latest poll, Reed, you saw that from Anthony Salvanto, it is just a dead heat. Yeah. You know, so if there's a few thousand voters here or there in Pennsylvania, maybe these Latino voters in that Latino corridor in the center of the state, or Puerto Rican, you know, or Puerto Rican voters specifically, then that can make a difference, and they're hopeful that it can.
Well, and in this fight, the voters get the final say, and we know that you'll be on top of it when those results start to come in.
Right.
Fin Gómez, always great to talk to you, friend.